we're going live now.
Pero aquí no lo veo.
Give me a second. You're going through YouTube?
I'm going through YouTube.
Okay, cool.
I found it. Yeah, ya lo encontré.
Yeah, it's getting there. Going through
YouTube. I hear it.
Okay, let me go ahead and share my screen. Excellent, it's working. There's a bit of a delay, but it's working. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Greatly appreciate it. Let's give it a few minutes for other people to go ahead and catch up with us.
I guess I'm looking at the wrong link.
No, I hear you.
No, because you hear me through Zoom, but I'm here at this. Can you send me the YouTube link for the page?
I am. I will do it right now.
Okay, now I wonder if I'm in the wrong place.
Is there any other one open, Jorge?
I'll send you the one I'm seeing. Y tú me dirás. Yeah, I'm in a different one. Déjame mandarte en el que yo estoy so you can see.
I'll go ahead and try to close that one. If it's something that's streaming, it shouldn't be streaming.
Ed, did you make sure to be streaming through the custom service?
No, I'm using the service. Go to the Autodesk Eagle landing page, to the YouTube landing page of Eagle, and it's the first one that shows up there.
Okay.
I'm taking a look at it. It's the only one that's streaming. Don't go to the Fusion one.
No, I'm here, and it says getting started with Eagle. No views 20 minutes ago, but it doesn't say part 1 like the one you have, like the one you're in. ¿Viste que te mandé?
It's like it's running. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so everybody's saying it seems to be working.
Yeah, in this one, in the part 1.
Yeah, started with Eagle part 1. Okay.
But it's
weird.
weird.
All the way from Kenya. Wow. Hi, Simon. Thank you for joining us. I greatly appreciate it. Wow, all the way from Kenya. Excellent. Okay, so it's looking good. Hi, Jason. Hey, everybody. Hey, so today, my name is Edwin Robledo. I'm part of the Autodesk, kind of like for Eagle and Fusion 360. Work with support and tech marketing and creating content, as well as Jorge. Jorge does we kind of do quite a bit of the same in parallel, which just makes it really a lot of fun for both of us. Anyway, so today the idea today is to create a brand new schematic using Autodesk Eagle. We were hosting these quite often in the past, but due to some changes, we just put it on pause for a little while um, with the now Fusion 360 electronic section. So we were creating some content there and getting up to speed with Fusion 360 electronics. But we had quite a bit of users asking us to get back onto this cadence that we had with Eagle webinars. So I thought we just figured that a lot of people are working from home, so we made an aggressive schedule for those that are most probably working from home. Be able to take advantage of Eagle. They could download it. It's a free version if they want, or if they have a Fusion 360 um, entitlement, they could just go ahead and use Eagle as well if you have a paid entitlement. So it's an application. It's a local application available for Windows, Linux, and Mac as well. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and start our demonstration today. Um, it's not going to be a really long one, but I'm going to try to be as detailed as possible. So you're going to download, you just visit Autodesk Eagle, I'm sorry, autodesk.com/, give me 1 second, I'll tell you exactly what the URL is. So it's autodesk.com/product/Eagle. I'll go ahead and put that on the chat as well. That way you can have it. And from that page, you're going to be able to go ahead and download this version 9.6.1 that actually released just recently. If I'm not mistaken, Jorge, it released early last week. It
Early
released.
last week, yep.
So it's a pretty stable version. There were a lot of updates done to it. So that's actually what I'm showing on my screen right now. You'll notice that you could see Autodesk Eagle that I'm running. I'm at the control panel, which is the very first panel that comes up. You'll get a couple videos about quick tips as well as what was the latest implementation on 9.6, which in that case was splines. Very useful tool for creating customized board outlines, and some of the other work that I've done. Now, I'm at the home in the control panel. You'll see here it's a control panel. I'm there at home. Now, if I go to preview, is where I'm actually going to be able to preview the items that I highlight in my control panel. So imagine this being like the control panel is the center of it all. This is where you can browse every aspect of your designs that you're working on, all your projects, I should say. So if I expand, um, if I expand the libraries, you notice that I have all these libraries. A lot of these libraries are actually libraries that are being shared with me. The one that actually comes with Eagle is the one called Manage Library right here. It says Manage Library. And this is the default library that comes with Eagle when you install it. This one right here. It's actually, and then all these other ones are just kind of what we refer to as managed folders. Managed folders gives you the capability of actually creating a managed folder, and um, you could copy or assign libraries to that managed folder, and then you can assign other users to have access to that managed folder. Therefore, when they're working in Eagle, they will actually see your libraries. And that's what you see here. These are managed folders that are being shared with me, and I actually get access to them. So as you can see, I could expand these, and we just have different libraries that we have that we share among us between as
Yeah.
teams. Okay.
Yeah. And a key point there is if you're invited to a managed folder, you don't automatically show all the libraries in the control panel. That's something that's been coming up. You have to go to the library manager available tab, and from there download libraries that belong to that managed folder. And this was a long awaited change, and really we're really happy about it being able to share managed libraries and follow the team workflows. So that's been really good for us.
So it's for you to see. This is called library.io. This is where you're going to be controlling when you create your managed folders and where you deposit the libraries you're going to do. So if you can see here, I have these are the different teams that I'm a member of. I've created some of them, or I'm a member of them. And if we actually go into one of these, you'll see there that these are all the libraries that I'm sharing for that one folder. And these are my members. So it's myself and Richard Hammerl, which is our support specialist and evangelist out of Germany. He's been working with Eagle, co-workers and a friend as well. So we're both members of that library, of that managed folder. So when he loads his Eagle, he actually gets access to these libraries as well. So we're sharing these. And the nice thing of sharing a managed library through a managed folder is that you do not lose your 3D model mapping. That's one of the main advantages of it. In addition to the fact that we're just collaborating and we're in the same library mindset. It's the other one. So you're going to be logging on to library.io. Use the exact same credentials that you log into to Eagle. You just log in there, and then here you create your managed folder and add team members to this library as well. Just wanted to bring that up there. Um, Other aspects of the control panel, I'm not going to really dig into much, is design reuse through design blocks. Here we have some examples that we already come with Eagle. These are, yes, sub-circuits that could be used on your design. We have many of them already accessible to you that our team has created, or some contributions like from Adafruit, Nordic, and SparkFun that they've contributed as well. So now you could create your own. You could create your own. We refer to them as design blocks. So you could actually build your own ones as well if you wanted to. Then now we're going to go to last but not least, and then I'm going to go straight to the project. Is working with ULPs. This is a list of ULPs that we have. ULPs is kind of an extension to being able to customize certain commands within Eagle. It's like a C-like language, which is very, very useful. It's all text and it's all ASCII, and allows you to create customization outputs. Or if there is a routine that you always use, let's say you want to put LEDs in a particular line, you want to line them up in a particular way, you could actually create a ULP for that. So it allows you quite a bit of customization on your workflow when you're using Eagle. Okay. DRCs is we have some DRU files that have been contributions through other board houses. DRU are the files by which are going to be used to make sure that your board is manufacturable. So many board houses have already contributed the DRU files, and we actually have them here. DRU is the file format that is used by our design rule checker. And we're going to be covering a little bit about the design rule checker on this Thursday. Okay. Now let's go ahead and start our projects. Here you'll notice I have a project folder, okay, and I have my default one, which is the one that actually Eagle creates. And then I have a few customized ones as well, and our examples one right here that we see here. This is the one that comes with Eagle when you install it. The nice thing is that as I highlight them, they become, you can preview them on the right panel. Same thing happens with libraries. If I expand the library tree, I expand any of these libraries, you'll see that you could actually preview them as well on the right hand side. Very well. Now I'm going to go ahead and click here where it says project. I'm going to do a right click and I'm going to select the option that says new folder. I'm going to create a brand new folder and hit enter. Once I give it a name, I'm going to hit enter. You'll notice that this is a brand new project. Okay, now this project actually is being written to my hard drive, and let me show you exactly where's that going to. Bring that up. Okay, so you have full control of where your files are and what path they're being stored at, and you can control that here up on top where it says Finder. Okay, options, directories. You're in full control where what path is being followed for for all your designs. As you can see here, this is for your libraries, your design blocks, and everything. You control that. By default, it's going to go to your documents folder. As you can see, it's going to my documents folder. You can see right here. It's going to my document folder, Eagle, and it's going to projects. That's where all my projects are going to be stored. The project that I just created, as you can see, is called Flash New. So you'll notice that it's right there, Flash New. Under my projects folder, it created that subfolder there. That's how it's going to be organizing my project as I move forward, creating with this design. I just thought it would be a really good idea. That way you know exactly where it is on your local hard drive where your files are located. Okay.
Yeah, and that's what we recommend if you can. I mean, if you have a good reason to do something else, you can do it, like Ed showed, by going through options directories. But your life is a lot easier if you just store it in the projects folder, because that's inside documents, Eagle, so it's in a public directory. Every every installation of Eagle expects it to be there. So you don't have to do anything when you update. When you update, Eagle just immediately picks everything up back up again. You can continue to work without any issues. So if you can, that's the recommendation that we give, which is just save it in the projects folder inside documents. But other workflows are supported also.
Thank you, George. Appreciate that. You'll notice that this right next to the new project I created, it has a little green dot. That means that this is my active project. Okay, so every time I exit Ego and I come back, it's going to actually have that as my active project. I could double click that, and whatever's associated to that design, which could be a schematic or and a board, it will actually just load it up for me. Before I move on to creating our first schematic, I just wanted to bring up one more key here where it says on our libraries. If I will expand one of these libraries, and you notice that we have the green dots right next to these libraries here, that means that when I'm actually searching for components to be used on my schematic, this library will become is available. If I click on this dot and it turns into that green, to that black grayish color, that means that library is no longer, is not going to be available. So if I click on all these, when I start accessing the repository of libraries in my design, those libraries are not there. They won't be available. They're not deleted. It's just they're not available. That's all it means. They're not going to come up. Why do we do this? That way, when you're working on a schematic and you're going to be accessing our libraries, our repository of libraries, instead of having thousands and thousands of libraries show up, you could actually kind of trim what libraries you want actually to show up for your particular design. Okay. Um, there is a little bit of performance enhancement when you have less libraries. It's not really critical the performance, but it actually is a little bit easier. Kind of works a little nicer. Okay. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and start our brand new schematic that we created. Now I'm going to go ahead and do a right click, and I'm going to select new schematic because that's what we're starting today. I'm going to create a brand new schematic. Okay, this is what the schematic editor looks like. Very well. So the schematic editor, you'll notice that we have a couple of rows of toolbars here, a couple rows of icons, and on the left-hand side we have a couple rows. In essence, the rows going down here, this row here, is almost in the order that you use them. So they're in that order, but they're actually grouped depending on what they do. So their task is quite similar. Okay. Now, um, just like to highlight that here is what we have for simulation. This is our simulation bar here. So it allows you to map spice models to your components on the schematic. We have a library that already has many of the most commonly used electronic components already with spice models in them. So you could actually access those libraries as well. Or you could actually place components on the design and model and assign spice models to them as well. Okay. I think we're going to be hosting a webinar very similar to this really soon. So you're more than welcome to join us then. Now, let's go ahead and start adding some parts here. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to be using is what's called the add command. Before I actually go to the add command, so right here we have a command line. As you can see, you could type your commands for those of us that like typing our commands. I'm guilty of that. I actually like typing my command, so I could actually do the add command, and this brings up the dialog box to access the repository of libraries. I'm going to be in detail talking about in detail, or I could just click on the add dialog box right here, and I'm sorry, on the add icon that we have right here. It does the exact same thing. Now, as you're constantly working, Eagle will actually keep a history of what libraries you are using. So if you need to access a particular library that you already haven't used, you could click on this little sliver that's right there, and it's gonna kind of show you. I'm sorry, you need to right click. Sorry, I apologize for that. You need to right click it. You got to right click right there, and it will actually show you which libraries have been the latest libraries you've been using. It keeps a history of what libraries you are using so far. Other thing I wanted to bring up here is that we have the grid right here. When it comes to the schematic editor, it's strongly recommended that you do not change the grid. Always work with the default grid or the equivalent of the default grid, which is zero point 0.1 inches. When it comes to the schematic, you're not really working with any type of geometry. You're only working with the symbols of the components. So there's really no need to be changing this grid unless you want to bring in a logo or anything graphical, and then you could change this grid. But when it comes to component placement or defining connections on your schematic, it's best to work on a 0.1 inch grid or the equivalent of this grid. So the equivalent, let's say millimeters, is 2.54, or you could just work in inches, depending what your preference is, as long as you don't change this value. Okay. Now, let's go ahead, and the first thing we strongly recommend, at least I do, and I'm pretty sure Jorge does as well, is always add a frame. Kind of define the area, the work area you're going to be putting your schematic on. So I'm going to be using the add command. Okay. And I have many libraries already here. Now, remember earlier that I was talking to you about managed folders? The beauty of having the managed folders is that you could see where the folder came from. Let's say right here, this is a managed folder that is shared with me, or maybe I created it. It's called DesignCon 2020. I was actually doing um, some data sets with Richard over in Germany. So we shared this when we created this. It was for DesignCon this year. Now, this one that you see here, that's Eagle PCB. This is our librarian team. Um, so we have quite a bit there, as you could see. And we have some other ones that are, let's say, the team by the PCBlayout.com team. They've actually have a nice contribution of libraries there. There's many more. Matt Bergren, he has, I have a nice collection of his libraries as well available here. And Jorge, myself, and some other guys of our team, we actually share this one called support teams as well. These are kind of private managed folders that we share among ourselves. Okay, so I just want to describe that. That way you understand how is it going to look when you're using the add dialog box when you've managed it through a library.io. This is what it looks like. Now we do have a search option, as you can see here, and I won't be using the search, but I just want to let you know that you can search for components as well. Now, this is not a Google search, right? You're going to be using modifiers like the asterisk, wildcards like the asterisk to be able to expand your results. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the frames library. I'm going to go to the frames library. Here's a frames library. And expand the frames library. And I'm going to select this one here. I like this one. It's 8.5 by 11 inches. Has a nice document folder there, and it already has a nice frame for me already created. So if I have multiple sheets, if I'm going to be using multiple sheets, I'll be able to get the location of when a net travels from one sheet to another one. I'll get a broad location of it. So I like using this type of frame. Okay, click OK. Now notice that there is a cross here, right here on my page, of my schematic, on my interface, on my workspace. That's just letting me know where the 00 marker is. We like to strongly recommend that you actually place the bottom left corner of your schematic sheet of the frame on that corner as well. This is the way we've actually done them all, and we every time we do these type of demonstrations, we actually recommend that you do this as well. So it's just a lot less confusing. And this is only a matter of preference because we just like everything to be in a positive quadrant. That's the primary reason. If we put it further down or below it or on the left and any of the other quadrants, you're going to be getting negative images. So when you're searching for parts, you're going to be getting negative images. So when you want to move something around, it's not going to be as simple because now you have negative image. So you got to take that into consideration. So it's like working on the positive quadrant. Okay. Now, let me just do a zoom to fit. That way you see the placement of the frame. Now you'll notice that automatically I get another frame attached to my mouse cursor. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to start selecting some other components that I want to use for my design, for a very simple design that we're doing today. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the escape key once. The escape key is going to take me back to the add dialog box, as you can see here. Okay, and now I'm going to start selecting my components. But before I actually start selecting some of my components here, there's just some features of this add dialog box that I would like to teach you as well. On the add dialog box, you'll notice that down on the bottom, there's a button, an option there that says Open Library Manager. Okay, so the Library Manager is where we store our libraries on the cloud. All our managed libraries are on the cloud, and you store your libraries on the cloud as well. Those are your personal managed libraries, and this is for me to take a look at additional libraries that are available, or even some updates. I'll click on Open Library Manager, and the first thing it's going to show me is, look, this is what you've been using so far on your design. I've only used the frames library, and that's true. That's exactly. I've only used the frames library. I accessed the frames library to add that. Libraries that I currently have in use are all these libraries that you see here. These are all the libraries that I currently have in use. Way too many, if you ask me. Okay. Now, if for some reason the libraries that we have, oh, I just noticed this. Okay. So when we do, these are libraries that we have in use, but our librarian team out of India is constantly adding more and more and updating libraries. Okay, these guys are really good. Um, so they're constantly doing updates and fixes or adding content to the libraries, the repositories. And when there's an update, you're going to notice this little symbol right here. Okay, it's kind of like double arrow. It's just letting me know that that library has been updated. Remember, these are the libraries that I currently have in use, and there's an update for that. So if I go ahead and highlight that library and I select update here on the dialog box, it will just update it, and you're going to see that this version changes. I don't know if you noticed it. It was on version 3. Now it's at version 9. Okay. Apparently, I had not updated it in quite a while. And if you have any more, you'll see that little symbol there. Now let's take a look at additional libraries that we have available. So let me go ahead and click on the Available tab that you see here. Okay. Now there's many more libraries that are currently available. Some are mine. I've been working on multiple computers, so I don't have them. I could access them remotely. These are some that I've been working on different projects. Let me just manage. Let me put them. I'm going to manage them through through the manage folder. I'm going to put them in order of the manage folder. So you'll see here, this is what I've been working with other teams. These are our default libraries. Okay,
Yeah,
go
this is
down.
also where you'll find the Spark Fund, the Adafruit, the Worth,
Correct.
any of our third-party partners that have wanted to contribute. You'll find them here.
Correct. So we have a nice contribution by Adafruit, by SparkFun, and Worth. PCB Layout. Also, Seed Studios also have contributed libraries as well. So this is a long list of libraries that we have. And yesterday, Jorge, just to let you know, I was working with one of the team members from Fusion 360. We were working on an example design that he's going to be using for his demo this Thursday, and he needed some connectors and the Worth libraries. I was able to find many of the connectors that we needed, and based on the serial number, I got to the website. Remember yesterday I was asking you about the female connector.
Yeah,
I
you
was able
found
to.
it?
I found them there. Yeah, I did find them there. So I was able to get, on the PCB layout, you get the male side, and then I went to the website based on the serial number, based on the product number on Worth, and then I was able to find the female side. That way we could use the use it in Fusion. That way we can have the plugin. It worked out really well. So
Nice.
if there's a library here that you actually need to use, you're going to basically highlight it. Let's say for this capacitor library, you're going to highlight it, and you're going to select here the option Use. What it's going to do is that you're going to notice that it's going to disappear from my Available tab, and it's actually going to come over here. I have so many libraries that are currently in use, it's kind of hard to find it, but it's actually going to come to the side. Okay? And if you need multiple libraries, you could click and hold and drag. Okay, just to let you know, you could click and hold and drag if you want to select many. As you can see, it says use 19 if you want to. Okay, now let me go ahead and exit out of this. Now the first part I want to use is a timer, 555 timer. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead here and then I'm gonna use my search option since I have so many libraries already open, and I'm gonna hit asterisk and I'm gonna hit 555 and asterisk. So yes, that way you see how the search works. I'm gonna type 555 and hit enter. You notice that I don't really get many results, just because this one on the description right there, it has 555 by itself. That's why I was actually going to be able to find it. When I expand my results, I can just put some wildcards on the start and at the end, and hit enter, and you'll see that I get a lot more results based on that criteria. Okay, so I'm just going to use the one from the linear library. I'll select this on the one, the NE555N. I use that one. Okay. I use this one. I like to use it surface mounted. Now let me describe what's going on here. So this is the same component. It's the one component. These are the package variants that that component comes with. These are the different package variants for the component. Okay. And this means that there's a 3D model assigned to it. That's what this means right here, that symbol. As you can see, let's say here, there's that symbol is not in this listing here. That means that there's no 3D model assigned to it yet. Now that doesn't mean you cannot assign one once it's on the board, on the schematic or on the board. You could assign it a 3D model. Um, but in this case, I'm going to use the ones that already have 3D models assigned to it. So now click OK. You'll notice that the component is now attached to my mouse cursor. If I use the right mouse click, I will rotate it in increments of 90 degrees, as you can see. And if I use the middle mouse button, it will actually flip it from left to right, as you can see here. Now to place it, I'm going to do a left click to place it. As you can see, go ahead and place it. Automatically, of course, you get another one attached to your mouse cursor. I'm going to hit escape and start grabbing some other parts. To erase my previous search, it keeps my search available there. As you can see, it's active. The last search that I did, it's cache. I'm going to go ahead and click on the X here. That way I can start all over again. Now I'm going to go ahead and navigate and look for the RCL library. That's where I'm going to grab some passive parts that I need. The RCL library actually has resistors, capacitors, as inductors. I'm going to use the US style ones, just because that's what I'm used to. But the European styles are almost the same. It's just instead of using that resistance symbol, the squiggly line, which stands for resistance, they use a box. It's the only difference. But that's about it, really. It's a matter of aesthetics. It looks like. Now I'm going to use 1406s, surface mount. No, not the round ones. I want to use the flat ones. So you go down here, 1206s. Okay, and I'll click OK. And I'm going to be needing 4 of these guys. I'll just place one there. Here, I'm just going to take a guess. I don't want the webinar to go too long on this, so there's a good chance I will not complete the entire schematic today, because I just want to show you the mechanics of how it's working. Now I just need to grab some capacitors. Now I'm going to use the CUS. Now I'm not going to use these capacitors, to be honest with you. Oh no, this is European style. Actually, I'll go ahead and use this one. Why not? Um, I just like it because it doesn't have that polarization symbol with the with um, with the curved line. Because I want to just use some non-polarized components. Here we go. I'll use that one. Okay. And for these, I only need a couple of these, as you can see. So I'll just use this one here. That one there. That's all I need. Very well. And then I'm just going to bring in a connector in which I'm going to use it to bring in power to our design. But this time I'm going to use our Fusion library. Let me see if I have the Fusion library available here, because we actually created a Fusion library. Let me just categorize these by, and I'll go to the Fusion library. Go to Open Library Manager, go to Available. And the library I want to use tutorial. I want to use this one called tutorial right here. Now click on use. Having a hard time finding that library. I did it earlier today. Oh, because they're not in alphabetical order. That's why. I'm having a hard time finding it.
And you can always sort it by name,
Yeah.
because right now you have it by
It's right
manage
here.
folder.
I did it right here. I found it.
Okay.
Okay. So now I'm going to use a, let's see, I'm going to use these LEDs. Use this LED. I need two of these guys. Let's put it over here. You know, Jorge, I practiced all of this morning before the webinar, and I always get you always get challenged. Okay, and
Those are the joys of running live, right?
exactly the choice. You're right. And I'm going to use this connector to bring in power. Use this connector here. I'll put it over here. Now let's start defining some connections for our schematic. I'm going to hit escape twice to just get rid of my connections, and I'm going to start running some to get rid of the add dialog box, as you can see. Now, one thing I want to know is that when there's no command active, the group command automatically becomes active by default. So I hit escape twice, and you notice that this icon automatically becomes active. Therefore, by hitting escape, I could just start now defining groups, click on the origin of any of the parts, and I could move a group this easily. Hit escape a couple of times, I could just go here, and I can move this group right here. Now, if you don't want to work with a group, I'll hit escape, but I could click on the origin of any component. The origin of the component is defined by that little crosshair that you see there. I could left click and hold, and I could move that one component by itself as you will. So therefore, you don't have to be clicking on the move command if you don't want to. And if you need to move a group of them, just kind of define that group and just, as long as the origins are being selected, and it will move that group as well, no matter how it does it. Okay. Now, I'm going to use the net command to define connections. The net command is this icon that we have right here. It says net. Okay. And I'll start going ahead and adding some connections here. You'll notice that as soon as I get close to the connecting point of a component, I get that little bubble. Let me zoom in a little bit. So you see, I get that little bubble there, and I start running my connections. Quick. If I left click at the destination, it will automatically stop the net at that point, as you can see here. Same here goes here. Now, one thing I wanted to show you was that there's times that when you do it, when there'll be connections that, when a net needs to intersect with another net. Let's see how that works. So if I'm going to run my connection from here, from my queue, oops, look what happens when I actually finish the connection right there. I intersect an existing net that is already there. I get a junction point. It's just letting me know that the name of this net and the name of this net is exactly the same. So it's the same point. So it's still letting me know. Okay. Now I want to break out my ground and my V plus. And the way I'm going to be breaking them out, I'm actually going to use the pin breakout. So I'm going to do a right click on the component. Now, this is an exercise that you would actually normally do on much larger components. But I just want to show you this feature and how kind of neat it is. So I'm going to click here. I did a right click, and from the context menu, I'm going to select where it says breakout pins. And I want to do unique, which it could be, it will put the part name. So the name of the net that's going to be generated is going to be the part, the gate, and the pin. I don't want any of that. I only want the pin name. Since this is V plus, I only want to break out V plus and ground. So I'm going to select V plus. Okay, so let me do one moment. Pin names. Okay, so let me go breakout. Hey Jorge, I'm not getting the option to break out only some of the pins.
I think it's because you already did one. If you,
If I delete this one, that will work. Okay,
I think it will.
so let's get rid of it. I'll have to look into it. No, it's not letting me do it either, George.
Hmm. Interesting. Maybe it's a Mac thing.
Oh, please. Oh, here it is. Selected pins.
You saw it?
It came out now. The option did come out now.
There you
So I
go.
could click on selected pins, and I only want to break out ground, and I want to break out V plus, and I click OK. So let me delete these I have here. There they are. Now you notice that it broke it out. I don't like the way it broke it out, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete them and do it one more time. Selected pins, label format. I only want the name of the pin to come out, and I only want V plus, and I want ground to come out. And click OK. And as you can see, it actually breaks them out. Okay, as you can see, it breaks them out, and it actually automatically adds the label to each one of them. Okay, as you can see, it added the label there as well, which is kind of convenient. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that feature. When you have really, really large components, it's quite possible that you would do this and break out all your transmission lines or something like that, and you just break them out for you really quick. Okay, let's go ahead and continue defining some more of our connections really quick here. Line these up. Okay, click on the net command. Any questions while I do this, Jorge?
So far, so good. I've been keeping up with the chat.
Okay, cool.
You take that one to the top of the capacitor.
This one, right? Yeah.
Yep, you got it.
I got it. Okay. Discharge.
Discharge goes right above R2.
Okay. Very well. And oh, I need this. Oh, this one. I had eliminated it. Now notice the difference when you stop the net at another net and when you don't. Okay. So when you don't, it bridges. These are bridges, and this means that they're connected. That's what that means. Now I'm going to be bringing in power to power all of this up now. So to be able to do that, I'm going to use, instead of having to run a net from our connector, because our power is going to be, our battery is going to be connected to our connector here. Instead of having to draw a net from every point that we have here, um, you know, I'm sorry, let's back this up. Okay. So instead of having to draw a net going from, let's say that was power, for example, and having to draw going from there and then going from here. Instead of having to do this, power could be distributed and it looks a lot better aesthetically and less congested, especially if this was a large schematic. A lot, if we just use some symbols that we have that absolutely do absolutely no contribution to the circuit board, but they actually do a contribution on the schematic because it lets you propagate a particular signal. In this case, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be propagating the the voltage powers as well as the ground as well. So let me get rid of these really quick. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the add dialog box and I'm going to look for a set of a library called supply libraries. Okay, I'll put them in alphabetical order. You'll see we have a couple supply libraries. I'm going to use this one called supply here. And then I'm going to use, in our case, we're going to use V plus right here. So I'm going to put V plus here and I'll use the same V plus right there and here and there.
Yeah. And while it's doing that, the beauty of this is that it makes it easier to read the schematic, number one, because you don't have so many wires overlapping each other and crossing over each other. And number two, because of the way supply symbols work, in that basically all instances of that supply symbol are automatically connected. So if you have 20 V plus symbols, they're all automatically connected. Whether you draw nets between them or not, they're all connected. And that makes it really easy to distribute power through the schematic and helps really the eye focus on what the signal flow is and not so much how power is connected to the circuit.
Thank you, Jorge. Now I'm going to do the exact same exercise, but this time I'm going to do the add command, and I'm going to do this for ground now. So let me just go get a ground symbol. I'm using the left mouse click to just go ahead and rotate it, and I'll start adding my grounds to my. Now, what I'm doing is you notice that I'm actually just connecting pin to pin right there, and I'll show you how that works in a minute. Use the net command and draw my net from here to here. You can see there. Now, if you notice, I did not put a net here, but as long as I just line them up, the pins, perfectly, I'm going to go ahead and use the move command, and I'll move this bottom one here. You'll notice that it automatically got a net there, as you could see. Another tip that I like to bring up is if you made the mistake, I made the mistake, I need one more ground. Instead of having to go all the way to the library again, I'm just going to click on the copy command and select one of my grounds that I already have here. I'll rotate it and I'll put it right there as well. Now, let's say, for example, you did the mistake and at this net, you actually needed to add another passive part or a component. I'm just going to use as an example this resistor here. I'm going to make a duplicate of it, as you can see. And look what happens if I just I put it in the middle of this existing net. It actually becomes connected to it. So if I move this part now, you notice that it's connected because the nets are attached to it. Um, so instead of having to delete each end of the net to place the component and then now connect it, you could just put it right there and it actually gets connected. Let me do undo. get back to where we were. Okay, I'm going to bring that up. Now, last but not least, we want to start now adding values to our components. We'll do that quickly. I'll click on the value icon, which is this one right here. As you can see it, you see it, it's kind of small. It's that one right there. It's the value icon. Or I could type the command value, of course, as we learned earlier. Click on value, and I started adding some values to it. So let's say, for example, this one I think is okay. This is 220. 220. And you notice, okay, you see that the value actually shows up. Here we have 1 microfarad.
In case anybody's wondering, you can grab these values from the data sheet for the 555 timer. This is basically it being used in the astable multi-vibrator configuration. So if you just look up the formulas there, you can design the circuit for whatever frequency of oscillation you need.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Oh, I just noticed I had not connected the ground right here. So in essence, this is what the schematic is going to do, what the schematic looks like. But let's go ahead and run a check referred to as ERC. And let's see what type of report ERC. ERC stands for Electrical Rule Checker. Okay. Maybe I'm going to try to go ahead and move this attribute that we have here. It's kind of like here. Move this, put this off to the side a little bit. Actually, you could just get rid of it. I don't really need it there. Since it's already on the label there, it's not really necessary. It's just making it messy. Now, you notice down here it says ERC. And let's take a look at the ERC report. We don't have a board, so it's not doing a consistency check. It's telling me the frame has no library, and it's about right. So I'm going to go ahead and say, you know what, that's okay. I say that R2 doesn't have a value. I forgot to add a value to R2 here. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go to the value icon again. And let's give that a value. Let's go back to the ERC report. Okay, so we took care of that. Now saying that jumper 1 has an unconnected pin, I'm going to double click it. That way it's sent. If I double click on the error, it actually puts that error in the center of my machine and the center of my screen, as you can see. And you notice that I did not have a net connected between our power pin, our ground power pin, or my ground pin and the connector. So let's go ahead and actually define that connection. Okay. Very well. Let's go ahead and run ERC again and take a look at the report. So I ran ERC since the dialog box was open in the background. It stayed in the background. That's why I had to click on the little triangle. That way I could get a list of error messages. And you notice that I have 0 warnings, 0 errors. And since I do not have a board, nothing is consistent. Now I have a really good looking, schematic that is totally completed. I'll do a zoom to fit. Okay. How am I gonna how am I gonna put the data over here on my frame dialog box? Well, the title is gonna actually be the name of the schematic. As you can see, it's called Untitled. Let me just use my arrows. I hope people like the arrows because I feel see the name of my file is called Untitled Schematic. Therefore, on my title box I have. So let's go ahead and save it and give that a name. Now, once I refresh, you'll notice that now the name of the schematic was adopted at the frame. Okay. Now the rest of the information, you're going to be using the text command to fill it out. So if you have a particular document number, I'm going to go ahead and click on the text command that you see here, text, and I'm going to type in the text, let's say for today, and click OK. I'm on the wrong layer. You notice that it's coming out in green. And if you notice, everything in green was actually on the net layer. So I actually want this text to be on the symbol layer. Symbol layer is kind of where you're going to put everything that has to do with graphical instances of the board, of the schematic. So I'm going to switch layers. Here's my active layer dialog box that you see right here, my drop down menu. And I want to use the symbol layer. You notice that the text actually turned red because now it's on the correct layer I want to use. And I could put it right here. The text is rather small. So on the action toolbar that you see here, right here, we could select, we have three types of font that we could use, different types of alignment, line distances, as well as the size. I'm just going to use the size. That way I change my size. Much bigger. Now, it's a little too big, so I got to type in a value there, 2. Now, since we're on a 0.1-inch grid, you'll notice that my amount of precision that I have is kind of coarse. Therefore, I'm going to press and hold the Alt key. That way I could go to the alternative grid. As you can see, it's a lot smoother now because I'm holding and pressing the Alt key. I do not recommend this if you're running nets or you're placing components. I'm only doing this because it's a graphical task that I'm doing right now. I'll do a left click to place it and I'll release the Alt key. I no longer have to put anything else, so I'll just X out of here, as you can see. And how do you set up the alternative grid? If you go to the grid dialog box here, you'll notice that you have your primary grid set up, and then you have your alternative grid set up. So we have 0.1 inches, and then we have 0.01 inches as an alternative. Okay, that we have a much smoother ride. Now, in essence, this is everything I wanted to cover today with our team. The only other thing that is we could have multiple schematic sheets if it was necessary. I could add more sheets, as you can see here, if it was required. Now I'm on sheet 2. So I can navigate the sheet 1 and sheet 2 if you had more sheets. Sheet 2 is not going to automatically get a frame. And there's a reason behind this, because you maybe use a different frame if you wanted to, even though it's not usual. You use the same frame, so you would go back to the add dialog box and use the same frame. This is everything I wanted to actually cover today on today's webinar. I would just like to go ahead and open up the platform to see if there's any other questions that anybody that is attending on our channel here on Zoom, or anybody on the live stream that has any channel or wanted me to uncover, or any suggestions that you may have. I should bring up. I should make this a little nicer looking. This up, kind of parallel with the next one right there. Okay. Now, I'm going to make a duplicate. Well, there's some questions that do come in. I'm going to make a duplicate of this one here because there's a feature that I really think is pretty neat that could be used. If you click on the next command now, you notice that you have this icon right here. It's not very obvious if you want to do a pin breakout of a component. So let's say I did a pin breakout and I said, you know what, I want to use only the pin name, and I want to go 10, let's say 10 grid points. And I could just click on here and I could click, as you can see, it's actually creating the pin breakout and adding the text, the label for me. That's what that does. Now, there's a couple other ways you could go about it. I will do the pin command again. I'll select pin breakout. And let's say, for example, I have N1 or B1 for bus 1. Okay, and I'm going to say this is going to auto increment suffix, as you can see. So now I'm going to go ahead and I want to go 10 grid points as well. Click OK. And you notice that goes B1. Oops, got to click on the dead center. B2, B3, and B4. So it's one way of breaking out the nets from a component in sequence if you wanted to. Just wanted to bring that up. Any questions for it that need to be covered?
Nothing right now, Ed. I've been able to keep track of it.
Okay. Well, in essence, this is everything I wanted to cover today. On Thursday, we're going to go ahead and convert this over to a circuit board and go through the process of actually laying out this board. That way you could, see how we drag in the components, create some polygons and rotating, and other really neat features. Um, and we're gonna go over here where it says Design Manager and Selection Filter. I just feel that there's a lot more use, even though this is useful here on the schematic. I just feel it's, it's better use over on the board layout level. So I'll cover what these panels do on the board layout join. And tomorrow, Jorge and I, we're actually hosting on the Fusion 360 YouTube channel. If you go to Fusion 360 YouTube channel, you'll notice that we have a meeting set up for tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to actually be covering everything that has to do with all these information panels that come with Fusion 360. Okay, so we're gonna, how to take advantage of it. Let's say you have 10 resistors on one foot using a particular footprint, and you want to switch to footprint. How do you leverage using the device manager and the inspector to just change them with a couple of mouse clicks instead of having to do each one at a time? Some other tools like that we're going to be covering. Well, everybody, thank you for being here. It's been a pleasure. Uh, really appreciate it, and I hope to see you tomorrow. If not, I'll come back on Thursday. Thank you, Jorge, for everything. Really appreciate it.
Bye, Ed. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Bye now. How did I go, Jorge?